Hi, I'm Jason Hungerford.
And I'm Melissa Lorah.
And we are the facilitators of the Spouse and Partner Support Group run by NAMI Finger Lakes in Ithaca, New York.
Jason and I met in 2016 when we both took NAMI's Family to Family class. While the class was extremely helpful to both of us, throughout the 12 weeks we both felt somewhat disconnected from the others. Everyone else in our class were the parents of adult children who had a mental illness. The two of us were there because our partners were dealing with mental health challenges.
My husband had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder and was on long-term disability from work. He was about to enter a partial hospitalization program, and I definitely felt like my life was in crisis at that time. I was struggling so hard to keep our life together, trying to understand the illness that was taking over my husband's brain and desperately fighting to get things back to the way they once were. Sadly, my husband died by suicide about a year and a half later in the fall of 2017. But I always tell people the tools I gained from NAMI's Family to Family class allowed me to have improved communication, understanding, and empathy for the last year of his life.
My partner was dealing with anxiety and depression issues. With no real specific diagnosis, our relationship became messy and strained. I started looking for help with an educational base. I wanted to understand what was happening, why it was happening, and how I could help make it better. I discussed each class with him, and he felt that I loved him enough to figure this out and keep going, something no one else had done for him. He often tells people it was a turning point in our relationship. So I guess you could say NAMI saved my relationship.
In the Family to Family class, Melissa and I had connected right away because we both recognized that as we were being taught different strategies and concepts in the class, and as others in the class shared their experiences, not everything could be applied to our situations in the same way.
One of the hardest parts for me was hearing over and over from people in the class that I should just leave my partner. I felt like an outsider in a place that was supposed to be helping me because other people thought I had it easy, that I had a choice. I could simply leave my partner.
I can't imagine telling a parent to just walk away from their child. You don't stop loving someone just because they have a mental illness. But that is what we were being told to do. That was not an option that either of us were willing to entertain. We were there for the same reasons as the others, to learn how to better cope and manage the illnesses that were disrupting our lives.
While attending the NAMI Family Support Group, I once again felt like an outsider. My situation was different from everyone else. I felt disconnected from them. And although people in the group were kind to me, it was hard for anyone to really understand my situation and recognize the differences when you're dealing with a partner who is mentally ill.
We needed something more, but something more did not exist. It took some time, but thankfully Melissa and I were reunited in 2021 when the then executive director of NAMI Finger Lakes reached out to us and asked if we would be interested in leading a support group exclusively for spouses and partners. We both immediately said yes, and we launched the group in March 2021. There are currently 662 active local and state NAMIs across the country.
But only 18 that have a support group for spouses and partners.
It's hard to believe that nationwide there really are only 18 support groups for spouses and partners. Actually, that visual was so important, I think we need to see it again. 662 local and state NAMIs.
With just 18 of them that offer a support group for spouses and partners.
That's less than 3% of NAMI affiliates. At the time we started our support group, we were the first NAMI in New York and either the first or second NAMI in the entire country to offer a support group specifically for people whose spouses or partners were dealing with a mental illness. I'm still in disbelief that nothing had existed previously.
Now, let's take a closer look at New York. In New York, there are 23 NAMIs,
but only 2 affiliates that offer a support group for spouses and partners. NAMI Finger Lakes and NAMI Central Suffolk, Long Island.
And Central Suffolk, Long Island's group is a bit different from ours. Their group is intended for both partners in the relationship to attend.
And that seems like it would be beneficial for some couples, but I also imagine that not everyone in that group would feel like they can speak freely and vent without judgment if their mentally ill partner is right there beside them in the group. This map shows where the participants from our group are geographically located.
Because so few NAMIs offer any kind of support group to partners and spouses, And because we meet on Zoom, we do not have geographic restrictions for our group. No matter where they live, they are welcome to be a part of our group.
Actually, Melissa, we need to be honest. This map isn't entirely accurate. That's right, we actually have someone who wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to join us from India. You may be wondering why we would even need a support group just for spouses and partners.
So we want to go over some of the more common differences when dealing with a mental illness when you're in a romantic relationship compared with when it's a parent-child relationship. Our first topic is shared life. As a parent with an adult child, your lives are naturally independent.
But in a partner relationship, typically you are living joint lives. Therefore, you are intentionally dependent on each other. And because your life is tied to and has been built with this person, suddenly your future seems so uncertain.
The next topic is emotional connection. In the parent-child relationship, if you are the parent, your emotional connection is affected by, but not dependent on, your child's emotions.
But in a romantic relationship, your emotional connection with your partner is interconnected, and it can become strained due to all the factors involved with mental health challenges.
Another topic is finances. A parent is typically not dependent on their child for their financial stability.
But in a partner relationship, you usually will have shared finances. So if your spouse is unable to work due to their mental illness, it falls entirely on you to make sure your mortgage gets paid, for example.
Next, we are going to look at the differences in relationship dynamics. In a parent-child relationship, you have a natural hierarchical bond with the parent and a natural caretaker role.
But in a partner relationship, you are supposed to be peers, equals. But when your partner has a mental illness, you are suddenly thrust into a caretaker role. Around the house, you typically would have shared roles and responsibilities with your partner. But following a mental illness diagnosis, oftentimes the healthier partner has to take over most or even all responsibilities in managing the household, and perhaps even managing your partner's health, for example, making sure they take their medication and making their doctor's appointments for them. Where once there was parity in your relationship, there is now an imbalance, and you can often feel like you're stuck in a parental role. It's uncomfortable for both partners to be experiencing this unnatural and unhealthy dynamic. It can seem like your life mate has turned into your roommate, as oftentimes romantic affection and intimacy severely declines or stops altogether. And if you have children, you might be feeling like you're now a single parent. These dynamic shifts are completely different and much more pronounced and disruptive in spousal relationships, but they aren't even addressed in current NAMI educational programs or support models.
When a loved one is diagnosed with a mental illness, it can have a profound impact on the people around them. When an adult child is diagnosed with a mental illness, the parent often takes on an increased supportive role in their child's life.
But when your partner receives a mental health diagnosis, it has a direct impact on both partners because of the connected and shared life you lead.
Boundaries is a topic that we often talk about in our group. When boundaries need to be set in a parent-child relationship, usually the boundaries can be made clear.
It's kind of difficult to set boundaries in the same way with your romantic partner. But nonetheless, boundaries are just as important, but they can tend to be a bit more difficult to manage, given the living situation and the fact that your lives are so intertwined and connected as one. As a result, our boundaries with our partners, or even the realization that we need one, can be fuzzy or gray. It isn't always clear when and where a boundary needs to be set with your mentally ill partner, which is why having a group specifically for spouses and partners is so vital. As a group, we can help each other work through those gray areas and make navigating the process of setting appropriate boundaries more clear and easier to recognize and manage.
Time apart from your loved one with a mental illness can be a very healthy thing, and it can allow us to reset a bit from the stress. In most parent-child relationships, time apart happens naturally and occurs often, especially if your adult child is not living with you. And if your child is in their teenage years, they actually want time away from their parents.
But in a partnership, finding those opportunities for time away can be difficult, and they happen infrequently. And when they do happen, we often feel guilty for leaving our ill partner at home.
Let's next talk about social activities. In a parent-child relationship, your social activities are typically naturally separate. You're likely not attending too many social activities together.
But in a relationship where your partner is mentally ill, attending social activities is very different. Your relationships with your friends may be strained. Perhaps you confided in them, and although they were well-intentioned, their comments to you were not helpful, or maybe they were even hurtful. Now you have to interact with them socially. You may find yourself confined or isolated. The stigma is all around you. You attend a family event and they ask, "Where is your husband?" They also don't truly get it, so you can't just tell them that getting out of bed and showering was too overwhelming for him today. So you're forced to tell little white lies. He isn't feeling well. He might be coming down with the flu. Sometimes it's just easier than having to hear remarks about how your partner is lazy and should be doing more. Or worse, they tell you that you deserve better and ask, "When are you going to leave him?"
The grief and mourning you go through when a loved one is diagnosed with a mental health condition is, in our opinion, a topic that is not discussed nearly enough. If you are a parent and your child receives a mental health diagnosis, you would likely empathetically be feeling your child's losses. You mourn the loss of their future potential. You might feel like your child is no longer that perfect child you envisioned. And you may even experience some self-blame, as if you did something that caused their illness.
That is a lot for anyone to experience. We also need time to grieve or mourn some things when it's our spouse or partner who receives the mental health diagnosis. We grieve over the changes in our partner, similar to what the parents experience when they grieve the changes in their child. But we also grieve the loss of what we expected our relationship would be. And we experience grief for ourselves as well, as we struggle to accept that our lives are now in a state of constant and significant change. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but hopefully we have demonstrated to you some of the ways that the needs of spouses and partners are different from the needs of parents. And we believe those needs are unique enough that it warrants having a specific support group just for spouses and partners, because the current general family support group doesn't meet those needs. We all know that NAMI does a great job supporting parents who have an adult child living with a mental illness. But as we mentioned earlier, less than 3% of NAMIs are even attempting to address the needs of spouses and partners in their support groups. When your adult child is living with a mental illness, often parents will have some built-in support from their spouse. But where do you go for support when it is your spouse who is the one with the mental illness? They are the person you're supposed to be able to turn to, and now you can't. It is so important that NAMIs look at ways that they can offer unique or inclusive programming and outreach specific to spouses and partners. We are slipping through the cracks.
As a partner, I can't tell you the number of times I have had family members, friends, coworkers, or even people from NAMI tell me that I should leave my partner. We need support and resources, not oversimplistic and insensitive remarks. It's outrageous that anyone going to NAMI is told to leave the relationship. And when we do go to NAMI, the isolation we feel is real. We are unable to identify and connect with others in the general family support group, pushing us further into isolation. Where else can we turn if we can't get support from NAMI? When someone joins our spouse partner support group, it is usually their first time voicing the challenges they've been living and actually being heard by sympathetic and understanding people. They get emotional as this huge weight they've been carrying around alone for so long is lifted. They are finally able to talk with people who actually get it.
Plain and simple, NAMI absolutely needs to be a leader in this. NAMI is the place to go for resources and support when faced with a mental health challenge. But currently, NAMI is failing to adequately provide support to people who have spouses or partners who have a mental illness. We have to do better. If these spouses and partners can't go to NAMI, where else can they go? It has to be NAMI. We must be able to provide support to these spouses and partners.
Before we wrap up, we wanted to share with you a few reasons why we think our support group has been so successful. First, we are trained in and follow the NAMI Family Support Group model. As a group, we actually work on solutions and offer tips and strategies to each other. Although we certainly do vent, we don't just vent. We work on actual problem solving. We have to. It's our lives at stake. Over the 4 years we have been running this group, we have come to realize that there is a lot of collective wisdom and experience in our group. So I started to compile what I call our tips and tricks document. It can be helpful, especially for new people, to review this document. It can serve as a reminder on things to do or say and how to take care of ourselves during challenging and stressful times.
In addition to discussing various strategies for specific situations, we often talk about how important word choice is. It's amazing what progress can be made in communicating with your partner by simply tweaking a few words. We also often guide people to various resources such as 988 or NAMI educational programs or books or websites. Melissa and I are very proud of the work we do with NAMI, and one of the reasons we believe our group has been so successful is because we set the tone for the group. We set the example. We are friendly, empathetic, protective, and realistic. Everyone in our group feels welcomed and well cared for. From the beginning, Melissa and I have always conducted a debriefing with each other after the group has ended. If a session was particularly emotionally draining or intense or worrisome, it is helpful for the two of us to talk privately and to come down from that heightened emotion. We will talk about things that went well or potential problem areas that we need to be on the lookout for. We also provide additional support to each other during our debriefing time. So not only do we look after and take care of the group participants, we look after and take care of each other as well.
Also, Jason and I have a connection and friendship. We are united in our goal and purpose for the group. We have a friendly yet professional dynamic together. Honestly, I do not think our group would function as well as it does if he and I did not have that foundational friendship.
And we maintain an absolute zero judgment zone. We believe each person's relationship is theirs. We have participants in various relationship types, including same-sex relationships, polyamorous relationships. We have people who choose to stay in the relationship no matter what, and we have people who have left the relationship. All of them are welcomed and accepted.
But we always prioritize personal safety, both mental and physical. So while we would never tell someone they need to leave their partner, we have pointed out ways in which they should prioritize their own personal safety and have allowed the space for them to act out different scenarios to help them better recognize threats to their safety and make a plan for maintaining their safety.
Finally, we want to just briefly share with you our goals and hopes for the future. First, we want to raise awareness about the unique and mostly unmet needs of spouses and partners.
We encourage affiliates to develop support groups or other inclusive programming specifically for spouses and partners.
We have asked NAMI New York State to designate our spouse partner support group as the official support group for spouses and partners for all NAMIs statewide. There are other state NAMIs that have done this, including New Jersey and Florida.
But until then, we welcome you to refer individuals to our group.
And with that, we would like to thank you for watching this webinar session on supporting the unique needs of spouses and partners. And we hope you found it meaningful. On the screen is our contact information. You may feel free to reach out to us if you would like to discuss supporting the needs of spouses and partners within your local NAMI. Thank you.